open the conference, The Future of European Agriculture 2020. In spite of the current situation, is not favorable to holding public events, we've decided to organize a conference on European agriculture. For the first time, it's going to be online. And this is why, instead of renting a hotel conference room, we've just hired a lounge. We highly appreciate the fact that also this year our conference is being held under the auspices of the President of this country, Mr. Miloš Zeman. Quite in the beginning, I'd like to thank to Mr. Martin Čermák, who did about 90% of all the preparatory work for the conference. At the same time, I'd like to thank to Mrs. Nicholas Bořilová and Mrs. Natalia Gricová, who have helped to communicate with foreign participants, and to Mr. Dušan Marinec, who did the technical arrangements. Of course, I wish to thank all the experts who have been willing to share their knowledge and experience with the public audience, and to our French and Italian colleagues, members of the European Parliament, who will talk about the EU legislation and its impacts on agricultural practice. This time, we have included the most attractive topics of our conference for the afternoon session. The whole conference is available online, and at the same time, after conclusion of the conference, it will be made available also on the internet in the form of videos. A small organizational point now. Questions. You can raise questions to the speakers using the Slido system only. And you just need to enter in the command line on your screen Slido, that is sla.do/agri 2020, and mouse click, and you will see a white rectangle on your screen where you can enter your questions addressed to a specific speaker. Then you write your name and mouse click send. If there are too many questions, we will select just the most interesting ones, and all the others will be answered by the speakers afterwards if they are willing to do so. One of the main problems of agriculture of the EU countries is quite inappropriate efforts to ignore the abysmal differences in the conditions of different countries. The opponents of respecting differences call this preventing renationalization, claiming that everybody has to be dictated uniform conditions. And at the same time, so-called common agricultural policy, this project for the next up to 7 years, retains huge differences among countries in terms of the size of subsidies. But the Commissioner for Agriculture, Mr. Janusz Wojciechowski, repeatedly reminded that the average size of agricultural area in Poland is 9.5 hectares, while it is 135 hectares in the Czech Republic. Economic competition naturally leads to increasing labor productivity in all sectors, and you can achieve it more probably in the mass-scale production, and therefore this concentration of capacities as on other spheres. Now, during the German presidency, the German Ministry of Agriculture, Mrs. Julia Klöckner, and the Vice Chairman of the European Commission, Mr. Franz Timmermans, repeat that it's unjust when 20% of enterprises receive 80% of subsidies, but they do not say, however, that these 20% of enterprises, for example in the Czech Republic, have a share of 93% in the total agricultural production. Just 100 years ago, agriculture there were actually more than 70% population working in agriculture in most European countries, I mean active population. Today in the different countries it's about 1 to 3% only. And the result is that a very small portion of population have the knowledge and experience in the field of agriculture. The farmers used to be respected all the time because their hard work ensured nutrition for the population. Today, German farmers complain that due to green propaganda, they are subject of hatred as the main people who damage the environment. Farmers also had to be respected because there were too many of them, and they had immense political weight. During the first Czech Republic, the Agrarian Party used to be the most powerful political party in this country. But today, the Agrarian Party, if it existed, would obviously not even get a seat in the parliament. High number of the European Parliament members and the Euro bureaucracy try to put through, as they say, most ambitious projects to allegedly salvage wild nature. They claim that drastic measures in the European Union will ensure a lost position for Europe, position of world leader, and all the others will join. I'm not sure that the European Union will achieve the balance of greenhouse gases exactly over the EU area, and that those gases will not penetrate to us from other parts of the world, and that they say that temperatures will drop over the European Union, and the indigenous Europeans and tens of millions of immigrants will live here happily and in unity till the death. And for this, as they say, ambitious projects, billions of euros are supposed to be spent. The objectives are set, sources are being sought for. Specific projects do not exist, but I don't doubt the billions will be used. Gigantic debts will remain. At the same time, burning of virgin forests continue so that genetically modified experts in general in society have less and less authority. Very many people have the feeling that they can actually express themselves authoritatively on all the questions, as we can see it in the field of epidemiology today. And this is my main endeavor, is to convey here some expert knowledge. And intentionally we have tried to invite experts from a broad spectrum of sectors, and we believe that all the participants of the conference, or those who will see it additionally in the form of video, will find it as beneficial. And now I would like to ask Professor Luboš Smutka, who at the present is the head of chair of Commerce and Finance, and is professor of the Faculty of Economic Management of the Czech Agriculture University in Prague, to make his presentation, and his statement will focus on the problem of aging of farmers, which is more or less a problem in the entire Europe. Please, you have the floor, Professor.
So good morning, dear ladies, dear gentlemen. I would like to express my thanks to Dr. David, physician David, for being invited for today's conference. And I would like to briefly focus on one of the key phenomena, which is closely, substantially related to European agriculture, which is the aging of agriculture population as a Europe-wide problem issue. Of course, while focusing on the aging of farmers, we have to say that not only farmers are aging, but actually the entire population is aging, not only population within the Czech Republic, not only European population, but generally speaking, the aging as such is today visible also globally to a certain extent. Of course, there are differences among individual global regions and countries, and the differences are quite substantial. Generally speaking, looking to a demographic and age structure of global population, we can see that the traditional concept of the population parameter shows in recent years quite substantial development when, in fact, the base of the parameter is narrowing. That means the share of population up to 24 years of age is diminishing, while quite dynamically the age group 55 plus is growing. And of course, with the extended prolonged lifetime, 60 plus population share is also growing. We can see the prediction up to 2050 as published by the United Nations, and the prediction with the respect of today's data, we can see that the base will keep narrowing, while the top of the parameter representing the older age groups will extend, will grow. This trend is typical for most of the global regions, maybe with the exception of Africa, as we can see on this slide. The dynamics of aging population is not visible only at the European level today, but we can witness it also in North America, but also in Asia, and with a delayed dynamic, we can also witness it in Latin America and Oceania. Why is that? It is caused primarily by the process of dynamic fertility rate diminishing to number of total population, which means that we can see the age groups up to 40 years of age, which is quite level, while in the context, with the context of improved health care and increased quality of life, we can see quite dynamic growth in the 60 plus age group, which is also a global trend. And we can see that in this context, it is not an exception only for certain regions. Usually we name a phenomenon for developed regions such as Europe or North America, but we can see that today this trend is present also in Asia, Latin America, or in Oceania. The only region which is an exception is Africa for a long period of time. We can see, generally speaking, one of the most substantial drivers which is accelerating the process of aging globally, which is birth rate, dynamically decreasing birth rate, fertility rate, which is quite typical for developed but also developing countries, where in 1950s, in average, in developing countries, the fertility rate was about 6.2, 6.3 child per woman, while today the number is dropped to about 2.7 children per woman. In developed countries, from 3 children per woman, we are talking about 1.7 child per woman today, which is, of course, under the reproduction line, which is ensuring quite stable proportion of population. thinking about aging in the EU countries, which is a key topic of my today's paper, we have to confirm that general trends exist globally, but also in Europe. Europe is truly aging, which is visible in the median age across Europe. It is demonstrated quite well on Germany. Germany shows one of the highest aging rates, dynamics. We can also see it in Portugal or in Spain, where in fact we can see that in 1960s the median age in Portugal was 27 years, in Spain 29 years, in Germany 34 years. Looking to data from 1980 or 2000, we can see that there is a big difference. For instance, Portugal and Spain are at 37 median age, Germany at 40 years of age. And looking to the situation today, 2020, Portugal 46 median age, Spain 45 median age, Germany 47 median age. It is quite interesting to consider also Czech Republic, where the dynamic is not that steep, but we can also see the process of aging. In 1960, in the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, the median age was about 33, 2000 around 37, 2020 43 years of age, median age. Speaking about forecast up to 2040, if the fertility rate remains stable, then we can in South Europe, for instance, Spain and Portugal, we can see that the median age grows to 50, to Germany 50, together with Poland and Czech Republic will continue aging to about 48 median age. That means that with this respect, while talking about aging of population in agriculture, we have to consider that it is not only about agriculture. Of course, it's a wider issue because population is growing across all segments of global or European economy. Only in agriculture we can say that the aging process is more dynamic, primarily due to a high rate of substitution of labor by capital, which in fact changed substantially factor productivity in agriculture and therefore, opposed to other segments of global economy, agriculture in fact shows natural drop in demand for labor. Of course, in certain countries, such diminished demand is more dynamic and less dynamic in other countries in the context of a mix of, let's say, national policies with the general European Union policy. We can see the trend being quite similar in most European countries. We can see that median age generally is growing, and based on that, we can see that while looking to the employment rate across all European countries and the EU as such, we can see that the most dynamic segment showing constant growing of rate in entire employment rate, which is the segment 55 plus. Of course, reasons why that are multiple. Nevertheless, we can say that that divide Europe to two parts. The new European countries opposed to old European countries, EU members. Of course, 55 plus segment or older age groups are motivated to continue with economic activities, primarily due to financial reasons, to generate an income in new European countries, while in the old European countries we can see the other prevailing motive, reason, endeavor to look for other satisfactions, because as the median age is growing, the age is really extended and quality of life is also increasing, and the productive age is also extended. So generally speaking, people tend to stay on the labor market. We can see a difference in individual sectors of European economy with the respect of
lidí ve vyšších věkových kategoriích v rámci toho celkového disponibilního
older age groups versus general labor force. So we can see that it's primarily agriculture which is more visible in European economy with respect to higher age groups. We can see that the second segment with 65 plus age groups, it's a retail trade, while we can see that retail also shows only 50% compared to agriculture primary production. With that respect, we can state that aging of our farmers is fully in line with standard development in the economy. Nevertheless, still it's specific, and it is related to quite unusual structure of the ownership mix of farms, lands, and also with respect to personal structure in agriculture. Basically, at the level of European agriculture, there is about 10 million of farm entities. Out of it, 9.9 million of farms is represented by family farms, which means that according to Eurostat of 2016, we can say that a majority of 9.9 million of family farms shows that there are almost no external employees. So, generally speaking, only the owner of farm works in the farm or family members, which is quite specific, which distinguishes agriculture from other economic segments. Based on that, we can see that among individual European countries, there are certain differences. Nevertheless, the prevailing share of family farms only in the entire farms operating in individual countries, it's quite provable So we can see that in majority of EU member states, the situation is as I explained, which of course has to be reflected in the age groups of farmers. Substitution of labor by capital versus extended lifetime allows older people to operate in agriculture, which means that 45 plus categories are dominating the agricultural segment. And we can see that it is a long-term situation. We also have to say what farms are impacted. Primarily farms with the size up to 5 hectares. Nevertheless, those farms with respect to ownership structure represents the physical core with the respect of declared farm units. Nevertheless, with respect of the agricultural land size or volume of agriculture production, those farms show in the EU up to 1/5, 20% of the entire output. Of course, there are substantial differences among EU countries. Of course, they are countries which are dramatically impacted by aging, highlighted by gray, and the aging population is less visible in the green countries on the slide. We also have to say that the aging is not only an issue of the developed EU member states or an issue of new EU members. No, it is a specific mixture which was also influenced by the situation in the last 20 or 30 years in individual countries. It is quite interesting to follow how the agriculture managers are aging. They, in fact, represent leaders of the agriculture business, and we can see that the share of the age group 45 plus is dynamically growing, and primarily speaking, accumulate in the higher age groups, older categories, 60 plus category. This phenomenon is in fact supported by the fact that the manager, in fact, is identical to the only worker in the farm, which was also reflected in the data provided. And in fact, we can track and follow this situation in the farm units operating in smaller farms, smaller land size, and it's less visible in larger farms with bigger land sizes. It is quite interesting to see how farms treat the farm succession policy. The statistics shows that only 1/3 of farms, primarily the smaller ones, operate in the mode knowing who will succeed the older farmer, and in 2/3 of the farms the successor is quite unclear, which is caused by a number of reasons, but by certain extent it is caused by a lower attractiveness rate of agriculture for young farmers, but as revealed by certain research, farms are quite small, and that's why they can ensure quite reasonable income for the owner. Nevertheless, with respect to the size of the farm, and it is impossible to outsource certain jobs. That means that children of the farmer work in other economic segments, and then they pursue their own career, and while the older farmer is willing to give the farm to the younger generation, then those children are no longer interested because they worked for 20, 30 years in other economic segments, which is not bad. Doesn't have to be bad, because the agriculture land pool within Europe is not unified, and it's not identical, and the question is it desirable within Europe to have the prevailing pool in the farm size up to 2 hectares. Looking to aging as an issue, it is not an issue, a phenomenon impacting EU only. No, it is impacting all regions. EU is doing quite well with comparison to other developed countries, such as Japan, for instance, because there is an extreme aging rate of farmers. Also, benchmarking with the USA, we can see that the average age of farmers, US farmers, is dynamically growing, and we can see that currently it is at 60 years almost. Of course, to prevent dynamic trends of agriculture population and its aging, the only chance is to bring new young farmers, to attract young farmers to the agriculture business. Nevertheless, it will be a topic for entire paper. In fact, it is going to be presented by Mr. Dufek, who will just share his papers in a while. So thank you very much, and I would like to thank you for your attention.